Now, getting back to this interesting guy, his name is Ahasuerus or Xerxes. He was the 4th king of Persia. And at that point in time, he had 127 provinces under him. And if you look at the map, it ranges from India all the way to North Africa. So he was a mighty warrior. He was a successful king, probably the greatest king in that era. And remember last week when we were studying the first chapter, the names have changed now from Medo-Persia to Persia and Media. Okay, indicating that Persia has now dominated the kingdom of Media, even though they started together. So this king had a banquet for 180 days, partying king, 180 days and another 7 days. And when he was drunk, he decided he wanted to show off his queen, which is Queen Vashti. But the queen, perhaps knowing what she had to encounter facing drunk men, she refused to come into the presence of the king. So the king, under the counsel of his so-called cabinet, decided to exile her or dethrone her from the throne. So we were discussing last week whether it was defiance, honor, disobedience, or stability on her part to stand up to the king this way and refuse to come into a room full of partying drunk men. There were some differing views, but at the end of the day, Pastor's advice is this: we must not apply 21st century mindset to 5th century mindset. So when we study history, the good way for us to do it or study Bible is to put ourselves in that situation, ourselves in that era, so that we can understand the culture then. So that is a good rule for us to actually remember. Let's go to now, turn to chapter 2 of the book of Esther. If you don't have the book, never mind. The Bible, never mind. I believe that there will be some slides to actually indicate and tell the story itself. But before that, let's show you a little bit of anime depicting the book of Esther. Thank you to Amanda and Adrian. that did all the animation. This is anime and depicted in the era of the 6th century, bringing together two worlds, okay? Two worlds, the old and the young. The Gen, I don't know what, and A maybe, and the Gen Z. Thank you so much, but stay tuned. There's more to come from Adrian and Amanda. Right, okay, let's go to chapter 2. And we start off our story at chapter 2. He starts to miss her. Okay, I'm reading from verse 1. I'm reading from the Net Bible. When these things have been accomplished and the rage of King Ahasuerus had diminished, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decided against her. Do you sort of sense a tinge of regret in him? It seems to be that way because he remembers her. Probably he loved her as well, but in the fit of rage, he divorced her. Then the king's servants who know him well enough, in verse 2 says this: the king's servants who attended him said, knowing that he's pining for his wife, says, let a search be conducted in the king's behalf for attractive young women. Okay, must be attractive young women. In Hebrew is basically young women, virgin, good of form. I think in the older versions of the Bible, he would say that. And let the king appoint officers throughout all the provinces of his kingdom, meaning from India all the way to Ethiopia, to gather all the attractive young women to Susa, the citadel, to the harem, or the house of the women. Okay, very specific. The Bible, depending on which version, will say, under the authority of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who oversees the women, and let him provide whatever cosmetics they desire. Okay, so wow. So here they are, they're going to gather all the young virgins and they're going to bring them into the harem. And let the young woman whom the king finds most attractive become queen in place of Vashti. So some of you ladies, don't you wish you were born in that era? Okay, so that you can experience all this. This seemed like a good idea to the king. So he acted accordingly, right? Now you can guess what kind of king he is. Let's go to verse 5. Now there happened to be a Jewish man in Susa, the citadel, whose name was Mordecai. He was the son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjamite. For those who have been with me in Discovery class for the longest time, you would know Benjamite is from the tribe of Benjamin, okay, out of the 10 tribes of Israel, who had been taken into exile from Jerusalem with the captives who had been carried into exile with Jeconiah, king of Judah. Okay, this would have happened in 587 BC when the Babylonians invaded Israel and brought these exiles into Babylon for 70 years. We've read that. This is a second exile. So somehow that guy called Kish, Benjamite, was brought into exile. So it wasn't only Judahites that was brought into exile, Benjamites as well. The Benjamite was usurped into the Judahites. Okay, strangely, coincidentally, the name of King Saul's father is also Kish, the Benjamite. I will now pass the assignment to Team Alex. And the King Alex is going to introduce Esther to us, her family, her role, and her accomplishment.
So this is the map of the Persian Empire, and it is by this time that the story of Esther started. The Babylonian Empire was destroyed, and so these Persians is coming. And the Persians have freed the exiled Jews, just as what Sister Mia had said, and they could return to Jerusalem to rebuild their empire. But then many Jews remained behind, and Esther's family was one of those families that remained behind. So she was just an ordinary young woman living in a foreign land, that is in Persia, and she is among minority race. The Jews are considered a minority race, and they are held in very low esteem. Her Hebrew name is Hadassah, which means myrtle, And this is a flower, is an evergreen fragrant shrub that was used in the traditional medicine to support the respiratory system in those days. So I would say that this neem myrtle was a fitting symbol of the recovery and establishment of God's promise. So to hide her identity as a Jew, her name was changed to Esther, and probably this was done by Mordecai, who is the older cousin. Mordecai was the one who adopted her when her parents died, and Esther was very obedient to Mordecai. She did not reveal her identity and even her family background as instructed by him. Esther was a young and beautiful woman, and she was kind to others even though she grew up under very painful conditions. So when the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many young women, including Esther, were taken to the king's harem as a possible replacement for Vashti, the king's banished wife. So all these young women were placed under the custodian of Haggai, the king's eunuch, and were pampering and beauty treatments to enhance their beauty for the king. So in the process, the young women would, the young woman will lose her virginity, and whether the king chose her as his wife, she would still become his property and would never return to a normal life. So such was the much margin of success and failure in this contest to win the king's favor. So it was, to me, either fame or shame. So inside the harem, so you can imagine the cattiness that would have occurred among the virgins awaiting their one night with the king. Esther's humble spirit shined brightly, and she won the favor in the eyes of all who saw her, including Haggai, who liked her and ensured that she had special privileges, like special diets and beauty treatments. He assigned her with 7 handpicked maidservants, and she lived in the harem's best quarters, well taken care of by Haggai. So when the king summons a virgin, she was allowed to bring with her whatever she thought would make her most attractive to the king. However, when it was Esther's turn, she took with her nothing except what Haggai advised. So she went to the king with no extras except what Haggai advised. So spent the night with the king. She was considered the most splendid among all the virgins, and she won approval and favor in the king's sight. So the king was very happy, and the king loved her, and he placed a royal diadem on her head. She was crowned the queen, and the king gave her a splendid wedding feast.
Oh, I think Tatin have well elaborate the whole chapter 2. I want to add on something that in chapter 1 we studied that when the queen Vashti not obey the king, right? Then the king set a new rule that every woman must according to men's pressure rules. But then when the king met Esther, right? The praise that the king gave to the Esther is really so contradict. The king gave Queen Esther, she is considered the woman above all women. I think this is a very good compliment, and the position that Esther have in the king's heart is really very important.
Okay, thank you so much for the storytelling. Young Jewish girl that was supposed to live a poor life because no parents and all. Man's turnaround of her fate, she became the queen of Persia. Beautiful woman, beautiful woman. Because Esther did not disclose her lineage. Verse 10. If you look at verse 10, okay, when just before she was brought into the harem, Mordecai told her, don't disclose your lineage. Why not? That means not to disclose the fact that she was a Jew. Not the time yet. Okay, what else? This is open to all, so we can do a discussion.
Could it be because Jews are, they are actually captives from in Babylon, and then after that, when Persia take over, so they are considered in the rank of slaves or very low status people. So that's why Mordecai told her not to reveal her lineage.
That's a possibility, but if we know from history, different from Babylon, the Persians were very, very tolerant of their so-called captives. They allowed them to continue to practice their faith. They allowed them to continue to practice their culture. The Persians were like that. That's why, remember, Cyrus was the one who allowed the Jews to go back to Jerusalem. Maybe second class or low class, perhaps.
I would agree with Valerie, because the text says he sent out people to all his provinces to look. And so they were accepting of everyone. But why would Mordecai say, don't reveal your background? I think maybe because they were viewed as being lower.
Okay, so they were viewed as being lower, no power, no voice at that time. Any others? Okay, so it's very interesting because, like this morning, Brother Alex was saying, oh yeah, we should stand up for our faith. And Jewish people are very, very firm with their faith, isn't he? And remember Daniel? Daniel also was captive, but he did not hide or conceal his identity. Remember Daniel chapter 1. So it's quite interesting why Mordecai asked her not to reveal her people or her lineage. But the very interesting word here is her lineage, okay? Because it was not even only just her people, but it was actually also her lineage. So she became the queen, and she was not supposed to say that she was a Jew. So does it mean she was able to practice her Jewish beliefs? I remember there was one student who asked, I can't remember who it was, how can she marry a non-Jew? Which is actually not allowed. The Jews were not allowed to marry non-Jews. And here she was going to get married to a Persian, okay? Like it or not, she's a king, but a Persian. So there was a question just now there. Then the second question would be, was she able to practice her Jewish tradition because she did not reveal herself as a Jew? What do you all think? Was she able to keep the Sabbath day? Was she allowed to not eat the unclean foods? She should have stood up like Queen Vashti, who refused to give up her honor.
Like Daniel,
okay.
see?
Why? Yes, like Daniel. So why didn't she do it?
She had special diet, remember? Did she request that diet, or was it forced upon her by Haggai in the first house, the first harem?
Fair enough, that was in the harem. But after that, when she became the queen, do you think she was able to tell the king, hey, I don't eat that barbecue pork?
She only went to the king when she was requested. That was the law.
Yes, so when she was with the king, she was not allowed to reveal her lineage or her beliefs. So when she was in front of the king and the king gave her a lobster to eat, what do you think? It was once a month or once in 2 months, right? When you're in front of the king and you're dining with the king, and the king gives you oysters, raw oysters. What do you think she did? Let's do critical thinking. Let's not just be so, on the surface. That's why I say discovery class, we are not thinking surface. We are thinking deep, because these are real life situations that will happen to us. She is a Jew in a non-Jew situation. For us, a Christian working in a non-Christian environment, or a Christian married into a non-Christian environment where you are forced to eat whatever your mother-in-law prepares for you, okay? All right, what do you do? Come on, please, think deeply. This is fact of life.
Okay, we can just say we don't eat that kind of thing. Like for me, for example, I just tell my mother-in-law, I say I don't eat pork or I don't eat that, you know, all those kind of things. And then she is like, huh? Why? And then like, okay, I don't really give a real explanation because you won't understand. But she accepts it that I don't eat that kind of thing. So
Okay.
sometimes maybe some people could be, you know what, you would say that you're allergic, whatever excuse.
Okay. So Esther could
He
have
may
told
not have
the
even called her for food anyway. Maybe just be for congenital rights. We don't know.
Anyway, Ben says Esther can exercise manja to the king to say she don't want to eat. Like, I don't want to eat lah. It's not good for you. You know, that is the Doraemon, the advice from one of our ministers about the Doraemon thing.
Well, I think she's the king favors her, so obviously it's just food anyway. So the king isn't that so particular. Okay, don't eat, never mind lah. Anyway, I love you so much, so it doesn't matter to the king, you know. So I guess there's no big deal to the king, you know. So well, she got by, and you know that's it. And also because she was in God's plan, so God must have find ways that she can, you know, get by and pass all this. So it's really no big issue.
Is it? Are you sure it's no big issue? For the Jewish people, it's a very big issue. And for the king, it's a very big issue of obedience. And how about the Sabbath day? What happens if the king calls her on the Sabbath day? Okay, let's go shopping. Or let's go kill a couple of people on the Sabbath day. What will she do?
Well, like I said, because the king favors her, so obviously, you know, sometimes like Ben was saying, she just manja a bit, and then the king said, okay lah, you know. And then, anyway, she only gets to see him probably only once a month. So I guess the king can give it to her easily.
Even when they want to eat together, she must invite the king for a banquet. You're right, Selim. So when she invites the king for a banquet, what do you think she will serve the king? So even if she doesn't eat it, do you think it's right for her to serve the king pork chops? All right, now these are all very realistic questions that you must ask yourself. And that's why I love the book of Esther so much, because sometimes we are just too, how do I say, idealistic and religious about our beliefs. Okay, I am not pressing the issue, but I want you guys to think about it, right? On one hand, you want to stand up for God. On the other hand, okay, when you are put in situations like Esther, what do you do? When you're forced to marry somebody that is non-Jew? Okay, understanding the fact that this is a king who can kill anybody. So I do believe that Esther did not have much control over her life. Neither did Mordecai. I do believe that Mordecai was just protecting her, not using her, protecting her when he knew, protecting her from the dangers of being a non-Persian. Okay, but going into the harem and into the palace itself, do you think she had the freedom to practice her faith? And if she did not have the freedom to practice her faith, is she not a good Jew? Just like if we don't have the freedom to practice our faith in our workplace, our home place, does it mean we are no better of a Christian or a Seventh-day Adventist? All right, and these are questions that I want you all to, we are not talking about the morality of or the ethical practices of Mordecai. We are talking about real life situations that we could be put into. And sometimes we are so idealistic to go on a moral high ground and say, these guys are wrong. He's like what Mr. Lai is saying. He should not do this. He should not do this. But I tell you something. When the axe is on your head, what will be your decision? When the axe is on your head, what will be your action? So does God do this? Does God take care of Daniel this way? Or does God use different ways of taking care of people? You know, we have heard of instances during the MCO. There are some churches in America that, despite the law of MCO or lockdown, they refuse to follow. They want to open. And I know some churches here as well, or some members as well, just say, oh, we will go to church to worship God, despite the lockdown. Okay? So this is a very, very interesting scenario about laws and obeying God's laws and the country's laws. Wow, I got you guys thinking, didn't I? Just the book of Esther chapter 2 itself. I know, because we are always very simplistic when we go through the book of Esther and beauty contest and the poor little girl and all that. But I want to tell you that the book of Esther is about our own practical life on this earth, okay? Do you sometimes at your workplace be challenged to practice what you preach and what you stand up for? Especially if, let's say, you're in Arabia or even in Malaysia. Are we free to practice everything that we profess? And sometimes even in families, all right? I know Cindy is very good at manipulating the mother-in-law, but not everybody has that freedom to do that, okay? Does it mean that if I were to drink that pot soup because I have no choice, does it mean that I will not end up with salvation, or I'm not a good Christian? All right, so I don't know whether, I don't think I have time to actually go to the next one, but I really want to, to talk about Esther, because not revealing her identity, like this, Mr. Lai said, she was going against Jewish rules of marrying a non-Jew, and she was morally compromising herself, knowing that she was going into the harem. Okay. So these were, these are issues that we need to think about. Some people will stand up and say, no, I'm not going to go. Okay. I wonder whether, that's why I asked the question about Vashti, whether it's honor or stupidity. But I believe that at the end of the day, God's ways are very, very different ways. Okay. So is what God sees you, not what others sees you. What do you mean by that, Peter?
I mean, everyone has the freedom to practice, even though they are in constrained position, because it is important that it's what God sees you, not what other people sees you. You can always pretend to be sick or to be whatever it is if you don't like it, but whatever it is important that God sees you.
Correct. Okay, it's very important the way that God sees you. So sometimes we are put into situations whereby, I believe that's why it's so important, the last book of Daniel is that you know your God. You don't not only know about God or know about your laws, you know God. And when you know God, God will know how to deal with your life. And I believe that Mordecai knew God. Okay, he wasn't just taking advantage of Esther. Right? He knew God, and the way of his practice would not seem like he's using Esther, because every day he will be standing outside the harem. If you read, right? Every day he will walk back and forth. This is in verse 11, in front of the court of the harem, in order to learn how Esther was doing. Do you think that he's the father, he's a cousin, no doubt, of Esther, but he adopted Esther as a child? Do you think that a father will willingly give up a daughter to the harem? Unless he knows that that Esther's life was at stake if he didn't do it. So he did it, but he was worried. He walked up and down, and seeing however, okay, God is in command, God is in control, so I believe God was maneuvering, okay? God is a maneuverer, all right? God is not so straightforward. God is a maneuverer in our lives as well. So if anything were to happen to your life, like some of you at office, you are suffering so much because of, injustice and unrightful laws and things in your office. And how do you practice as a Christian? Okay, right? So yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter, you can argue about Mordecai and say that he was feeling guilty and all that, right? But the idea is, the fact of the matter is, we're not talking about Mordecai, all right? We are talking about the fact that how do we exercise our faith and practice in this kind of situation. And a lot of times we become too idealistic and say that, and take the moral high ground when we judge others, which we should not judge people for their actions. Remember this. Everybody has their life to live, okay, including yours. You can only judge them when you're right in the middle of that situation and the decision you make. Then you can judge yourself, not judging others. Wow, that was the second chapter of Esther. And it had become such a serious discussion. I'm so sorry. It was supposed to be just a movie, isn't it? Yeah, I'm so sorry. But and at the end of the day, I think the advice from God, from Jesus himself, is very important. Okay. And I like this because, you know, as much as you like to see that every Christian or every Seventh-day Adventist woman should be simple without makeup and stuff like that, this is how probably Esther would have looked. All right, all decked up with jewels and makeup and such a beautiful figure. And because of the beauty, she captivated the king's heart. Okay, we're going to skip this. Team May, get ready next week. We're going to skip this. This is another interesting event where Mordecai, instead of not revealing himself, reveals himself that he's a Jew. So it's a very interesting story. But let's finish off with this. Right? This is Jesus' advice to his disciples when Jesus was on this earth. When Jesus was on this earth, he was also a very wise person who did not reveal himself until probably the end. And he says this to us, you know, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. What does it mean? It means that we just have to be smart. Don't be an idiot, okay? Don't be an idiot when it comes to practicing your faith. That's why people don't like Christians and Adventists, because they are idiots, okay? So be wise as wolves, as serpents and innocent as doves, because the world we live in is a very different kind of world. Right? This is what I want to leave you with, so that you can go back and think about it, right? In your workplace, in your family place, in your life, in your social life, how we can practice our faith and still be as wise as serpents. Okay, thank you so much for that. I will end my lesson. I have 10 minutes because I want to do something very special. Do you know that this is Discovery Class 52? And Discovery Class 52 means what? Means that we have had this Discovery Class 52 times, means one whole year. We've been having Discovery Class almost every week, except for the fact when I was on holiday, or when the pastor wanted me to rest, then we didn't have the Discovery Class. So I do want to thank you all for being present at the Discovery Class. And I do want to also recognize some people who were there from the very, very beginning. So today is certificate presentation time. Certificate of accomplishment for those who have followed me for 52 weeks, one full year. So the first certificate will be presented to Angela Quack. Well done.
Thank you.
52 lessons of Discovery Class faithfully every Saturday, every Sabbath, when we were able to worship, and Zoom for the last, I think, 7-8 times. The next person will be Valerie Lai. Thank you, Valerie, for being with us, and thank you for designing the certs for me. All right, means that we have gone from Genesis all the way to the book of Daniel. We just haven't touched Ezra and Nehemiah. We're going to go back to Ezra and Nehemiah. Janice, thank you so much. Janice, thank you. Despite your busyness as well as running around, you were able to complete 52 lessons. And I know that you do archive up all the slides. You told me that you do archive the slides. Uncle Teo, thank you for always your wise comments during class. Benjamin, thank you for running between children's class and Discovery Class, and also giving your input in Team Val. There's 52 lessons that we've gone through together. And Cindy Saw, the one that runs it at 9:59, also 52 lessons you've been with us together. And Brother Alex, of course, never failing, never late, always there to welcome, to introduce me during Discovery Class, despite his busyness. And our dear Celine, thank you so much to be with us. The 3 a.m. teacher, Mayong. Okay, I know you sometimes do travel, but you do try to catch up. So 52 lessons you've been together with the Discovery Class. And finally, Rospia. Okay, Rospia, Masaline also has to be running between children class and and discovery class, but nevertheless, she never misses every time she's able to do that. Now, I'm not saying that the rest of you don't get certs, just that when came in the middle, there will be another certificate of accomplishment in the next few months, so that we can present it to you and show appreciation to you for being so faithful in learning God's word. I just want to specially mention somebody, okay? This person, when I started Bible study with her, she told me she doesn't know anything, right? That her Bible knowledge is so bad. She doesn't like history, she doesn't like geography, she doesn't like numbers, she's confused about everything. But the questions that she asks are always very strange questions, but very good questions. So today I want to present to her the most outstanding improvement certificate for being able to now comprehend the Bible, being able even to know about history, to study history, to even give her comments. Yes, you're right, Ben. The certificate of excellence presented to Celine Chu for most outstanding improvement in discovery class. Now, I know this is a human honoring, but I believe that it's good to honor and recognize. Everything is all praises to God as well, but it's also your effort and your dedication to understand and to learn the word of God. And why there's a mountain in the middle is because life is about learning, and learning is about life. So there's no ending to learning, especially when it comes to God's word. I thought I knew everything about the Bible and the 28 fundamentals. When I studied for my master's, I realized that I know nothing. And that's why today we have the discovery class. And I do hope that all of us are like that, always learning and always discovering the will of God for our lives. Because God is great, God is good, and Jesus loves us. Congratulations, keep coming, keep discovering together.